You mean to tell me your mama never told you stories about critters and weavers? Oh, you're lucky I come along.
In 2018, Compulsion Games joined the Xbox family, and ever since, I've been eager to see what they would create with extra resources. After releasing We Happy Few, they began work on their next project, South of Midnight, and now it's finally here. South of Midnight is an action-adventure game with a healthy dose of platforming. Set in a fictional version of the Deep South, it draws heavy inspiration from folklore and gothic fantasy. You play as Hazel, a young girl living in Prospero with her mother, preparing for an incoming storm. But things take a turn when Hazel starts seeing strands of light and hearing voices. Why? Because she's a weaver, a person with the rare ability to mend broken bonds and spirits. This also means Hazel can see the corruption, dark, twisting vines that plague the world. But where does this corruption come from? That's something you'll discover throughout your playthrough, among other things. South of Midnight is structured like a book, with each of its 14 chapters telling its own contained story, inspired by a real folklore like Two-Toed Tom. Each chapter serves as a level, guiding Hazel on her journey while slowly unraveling the bigger mystery at play. Even if you're unfamiliar with these folktales, you'll likely find them just as powerful as the main story itself. If I had to point out South of Midnight's biggest flaw, it's that it doesn't reinvent the wheel. The combat is simple, built on hack and slash mechanics we've seen before: X for attack, B for dodge, and a handful of upgradable abilities like push, pull, and area of effect moves. Abilities are upgraded using orbs, which you'll earn by exploring and clearing corruption. And thankfully, combat never gets overly complex, although it does add a few twists along the way. One of the most interesting mechanics, Crouton. This little stuffed toy, gifted to Hazel by her mother, can temporarily take control of enemies during combat and help with traversal by fitting into tight spaces. He's adorable and useful. Traversal is another big part of the game. You'll be climbing, wall running, and even gliding your way through levels. Again, nothing groundbreaking here, but it's fun and well executed. Boss fights, though, are a standout. Each has a unique twist. One even requires ringing a bell to daze the enemy. These moments break up the regular combat and keep things fresh. South of Midnight's animation is one of its most unique aspects. It uses a stop-motion style that makes it feel like a living, breathing storybook. This can also make platforming and combat a bit tricky until you adjust to the timing. Luckily, if you struggle with it, there's an option to turn it off, but honestly, I stuck with it because it adds so much charm and gives the game a distinct cinematic feel, kind of like Isle of Dogs or Fantastic Mr. Fox. In the sound department, South of Midnight nails its atmosphere, from the ambient calls of owls and foxes to the hauntingly beautiful score by Olivia de Rivera. The real highlight, the unique tracks for each boss fight. These aren't just background music, they tell the story of each character you're facing. It's one of those rare soundtracks I'll be listening to long after I've put the controller down. I have to applaud the developers for incorporating gameplay mechanics that are simple enough for anyone to pick up, but the game also offers additional options, such as the ability to skip combat, chase sequences, and even boss fights. Some might roll their eyes at that, but for players who struggle with dexterity or mobility, it's just a fantastic inclusion. Games aren't just about challenge, they're about experiencing a world and a story, and Compulsion Games made sure everyone can do that. From a technical perspective, the game runs well on Xbox Series X, staying mostly locked at 60 FPS, with only minor dips in certain boss encounters. I did run into a few small bugs, like floating above stairs or getting stuck on an object for a split second, but nothing game-breaking. With an inevitable Day 1 patch, most of these should be ironed out before you even play. Despite some minor issues, such as Hazel exhibiting a floating manner occasionally and the lack of truly unique gameplay elements, I enjoyed my time with South of Midnight.
He better keep his promise.
Its story and protagonist, Hazel, connected with me in a way I didn't expect. The setting and art direction give the game an identity all of its own. The stop-motion animation makes it feel even more unique, though if that isn't your thing, you can turn them off. Overall, South of Midnight is a game I'd recommend, especially with its lower price point at launch and availability on Xbox Game Pass. The game will provide you with anywhere from 10 to 12 hours of playtime, but much longer if you want to explore everything that the world has to offer. The Outerhaven gives South of Midnight a 4 out of 5 stars and highly recommends this game. Alright, that's a wrap. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button and let us know what you think about the video in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our upcoming content. For even more gaming and geek culture goodness, head over to theouterhaven.net. We've got news, reviews, podcasts, and so much more waiting for you there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.